Hey everybody, and welcome back. Well, we had a nice trip to Baltimore, which is about, I don't know, getting on for 400 miles south of here, I suppose, so it was considerably warmer down there. And when we got back, it was 30 degrees here and white, and it stayed below freezing and continued raining for the last couple of days, snowing for the last couple of days. So we got about 3 inches of snow out there, and it's cold. So we're locked in for the winter, I think, now, which means the jag gets put away. They've already been out salted the roads once, so it doesn't go out when there's salt on the roads. And as you can see, everything's still a mess in here. So we'll press on with the tank, and I'll tidy up as well. So I can't think of anything else. Let's do some work. Right, well, a lot more tip-tapping's been going on. So this is now starting to fit quite well. I've still got to work it a bit at the front. I think I mentioned last time, probably 90% of the battle with doing this is knowing just where to hit it to get it to do what you want. So I've managed to shape it out. I ran the sander over it just to see where the high spots were, because I've been planishing as well as I go along. And basically, it's also what I've been able to do actually is, as it's come closer and closer to the shape, I've been able to keep marking it and just trimming little bits off. So now it touches all the way around at the bottom. It's almost perfect to the shapes, not quite, but it's almost perfect. And this is getting close as well. So I'm going to keep on working on it. These parts here have been reasonably easy to planish out, but this is where I've got to be careful. I've got to get something in, because if it's too big a curve, it's going to start to spread it out again, which has happened. I've had to sort of bring it back in. Nothing too stressful, but as I say, you work on one bit and you realise as you've formed it here, you've pushed it out a little bit there. So I've got to keep working on that and work on this here. There's a bit of a bump there, I can just feel. That's got to be smoothed in. But let me show you this actually on the base, because it's, as I say, it's not, strangely enough, 100% identical to the wooden end here. So let's see how it fits on here. So if I put this on about where it should be there. See, there it is. It's going to be. See how close that is? Actually, it needs to come back a little bit. It's actually going to be there. So that really is very close to fitting spot on. I can still turn this edge in a little bit, and I can actually turn that edge up slightly so I can get a really close fit up for when we do that weld. So that's all coming along. I'm really pleased with it. For a first attempt, I don't think it's too bad. So let me carry on tapping. Now then, this is fitting really well here around the back, so I think I can risk squaring this edge up to match this one. So I've got that clamped where it's going to go. Put a bit of red dye chem on there. So what we're going to do is, either with the calipers or maybe a pair of dividers, we'll run one leg along this edge and the other leg can score that, and then we'll get an exact match up. And then I think I might actually weld this on and finish the last bit of work with this on, because I can clamp it up and use the form a bit more. Doesn't look bad, does it? Keep saying that, but I must admit I am a little bit surprised at how well it's come out. Okay, let me find something to scribe this with. Right then, these seem to be the best ones to do this with, so I've set it just slightly more than that gap there. come on now. Little bugger, come on. I marked the other side just to check that it would... I keep slipping off this edge. See, that's not quite in. I need one that's a little... one side is wider than the other side. Or deeper than the other side, I should say. Because this is still got to be worked in a little bit. God. Yeah, that doesn't fit in there. I need something thinner. I've almost got it. Let me see if I can find something that will work better. What was happening there was having to press to score it was jumping it about, because this isn't actually a perfect edge. So I'll put some tape on, and the idea is we can just use a compass then and just do a pencil mark. Actually, I can, the other thing is I can extend should be able to. Good, that's a tight grip in there. Hold on. Right, we'll try again. This, by the way, I've set up here, the widest part of the gap. There we go, that's worked perfectly. And you can't see it, but there's a black mark down here, which is where this should end, and I'm coming down right on that black mark. Guess what? It's starting to rain again. Now this is something that's going to be terrifying, because if I haven't marked this right, as I mentioned before, I cut this off and I'm too short, then what will we do then? Alright, so let me cut this off and then we'll offer it up again. I was just thinking, why should I be the only one to suffer while I'm cutting this? I can almost hear you all holding your breath. I don't want that to happen because it'll be difficult to start that. If I go out of frame here, excuse me, but I've got to keep myself right for the actual cut. Now of course I'm cutting this the wrong way to a certain extent, because the curl up should be on this side. So it's pushing me off the line a little bit. Trying to, I'm not letting it. Because it's doing that, came round and got caught under the blades. Doing it this way is actually deforming the edge a little bit. I'll have to If you can see a couple of places it's just twisted out of shape. So let me knock it back into shape and then we'll try it. Alright, well, put that back on its black mark, which is what I was working from. I think I've got you looking at it square on. Ooh, some very slight touching up, tiny little bit there. And I think we're in business. Well, yeah, just ease a little bit off there, look, and that'll go right up tight. And I'm going to say it again, that's not too bad. When this is welded, you see, this is why I put this like that. When I've got that welded and smoothed out, we'll put it back on here, and then we can do that last little bit of hammer forming. We'll do it with a slapper so we don't leave any round or square marks. We can put that to exactly to that shape so that we have a perfect transition. So the slightest little bit there. Tiny little touch on this side that you can't see, just there. Again, just these things to just ease off with a file. Right, well, oh, time's getting on. I had better knock off now. Let me just have a look at the bottom. Fitting perfectly on one side. This little curve, I guess there's a curve that way slightly, there's a curve this way, and just getting it to follow that. See, that one is almost exactly right. I think that side is a better side, that'll clamp up perfectly to weld. This just wants bringing in inwards a little bit here. There's a slight gap here, but from there to there it's touching, and then there's, oh, it maybe works its way out to 1/8 of an inch gap here. So I've just got to get that smoothed back in. Oh man, I'm pleased with that. Alright, gotta go. See you later. Now I've got this curve part here fitting really nicely, so I'm actually going to tack weld it to this to see what's what, and then we'll offer it up to the base. Then if it's not right, I can always break the tacks and make some adjustments. So what I've done, I don't think it'd be a problem, but since I'm going to actually weld it while it's on this form, I think the heat will be so quick it won't do any damage to the wood. I'm not worried about damaging the wood, but I don't want it to gas off or get any bits coming off it and getting into the weld. So what I've done is I've actually put a little groove in so that there'll be an air space where I'm welding isn't actually touching the wood. So let me get this other piece clamped on and then we'll see about tacking it. Right, so let me see if I can take a little of the glare off. I've tacked it up sort of here, there, and the same on the other side. So now I just want to tack it at the bottoms on each side. So what I'm going to do is take it off here so I can put a clamp on and hold it so that I can get at the bottom of there. So let's do that. So there's how I clamped it up to get this one in. I've got to buy, well actually I've got to buy some more of these, but this one, the little springs disappeared, so it doesn't work properly. Alright, so let me do exactly the same thing on the other side. So there it is, starting to shape up. It looks a bit clunky now because we still have to shape it. You know, we have the curves to go in there and it's below the edge because I made everything larger. I'd rather be able to trim it back than find out that it's not big enough. But When you can see the engine more as well, it'll look better. It's maybe a little fatter than I wanted it to be. But hey, it's working out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld that up and smooth the lines all in nicely. I'm going to weld it up on the inside as well when we finally finished. Each of these joints will be welded up on the inside, so that when we smooth it all out and sand these joints out and linish it all into shape, then I'm not just taking away this joint, there's going to be material underneath it in the joint. Right, so let me do the full weld. Right, well, I've welded it all. I'm not sure how well you can see this because I know there's glare. I've welded it all and I've started to take some of it off. And the way I'm doing that, so as not to get into either side, is to use one of these little, whatever they are, 1/2 inch wide things, because I can just nicely go along the weld, do it very slowly, and just keep an eye on it so that it doesn't start to touch either side. And then I'll finish it off with a file, just going over easily. I won't show you me doing this because of this. Alright, so I've got my earplugs in, but I know you haven't. So let me do some more of that. Right, well, I've carried on planishing and bumping and slapping and what have you. I must admit that it is quite a slow process. What I want to mention is I've had a lot of comments, really helpful comments, from people who are sheet metal workers, and I want to thank everybody who's sort of given me hints and tips. For instance, somebody mentioned that they thought I had too much sand in here so that it wouldn't form the curves I wanted, and I think he was right. So I've let a bit out because I've done some slight bumping from inside as well. So why is it red? Well, I have some Dychem as an aerosol, so I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll give it a quick squirt with that, and then we'll use a flat sanding block, and I can show up all the low areas. Like that. So that's not too bad, because I mean, we haven't really run the sander over this. This is really light, it's virtually taking nothing off. But again, if you remember how lumpy it looked when we first did it, that I think looks pretty good. If I was painting it, I'd probably stop now and just skim that. Or actually, some of them are so low that you know, it is quite good. They are so minor that probably the filler primer that I use would flow into them. So anyway, that's what the red's for. So I will continue and sand it all, and then where I can see I'm down, I can start dollying it, put the dolly behind that and tap round. I know I mentioned this before, that was one of the things which I discovered which seemed counterintuitive to me. When I first started doing tanks where I would maybe take the bottom out to knock dents out, the big dent you knock out from underneath. But I was watching one chap and he said, okay, let's deal with these low areas, and he put the dolly behind it. And I thought, well, no, don't you want the dolly on the outside so you can knock the low area out? But you don't. You put the dolly behind it, and as you hit the dolly, the low area is on there. The area around it gets pushed down, if you like, towards the dolly, which in effect raises the low area, and it sort of shrinks it all and squishes it together. Again, one of those strange things you would think is counterintuitive, but it works. So anyway, let me carry on sanding this and doing some more bumping. and then we can just keep giving it a little coat of die-chem to see how we're going. And then when it's really close, that's when we'll sand it and take a few thou off and get a nice smooth finish for polishing. So there's a couple of little places, I think around this side, I've got to put a little blob of weld in, but I want to get this done and then I'll weld up the inside so we have a nice, if anywhere I haven't got full penetration, which there are a couple of places I must admit, it'll give me a nice strong seam. Right. Alright, well I've kept on and I just ran the DA sander over it. As you can see, there's some very slight depressions, but basically all of the stuff, these are the only deepish ones. And I've been working on this we can take a little bit out at the top and that will drop on there nicely. Tell you what though, this is boring doing this, so I've actually knocked off and done a couple of other little things to give myself a break, but I'll just keep on working at it. It's all looking pretty good. Oh, hang on, I meant to zoom you in there a bit. The level at the sides there. I say we want a little bit. Let me mark that and take it off and bring you back. There we go. Tiny bit more forming on this edge. You can see I can weld that up nicely. Perfect. So let me press on with this. I've got a little bit of time before I finish for the day. I'll just keep sitting there tippy-tapping away, and then when we come out tomorrow we're going to look at those front pieces. Right, so as I mentioned, this planishing is boring. So I thought I'd just take a little bit of a knock off. Also, the hardest thing I'm finding with this is holding the thing. You can't, you know, it's not something I can just grip in a vice or anything like that. And you find that when you're sort of hitting with the dolly behind, it moves around, so you can't keep the dolly against it and get the solid tap. So I thought, okay, let me check the fit. So I've been working on the back end a little bit. Now this edge here and the corresponding edge on this side are right. Everything is spot on. But let me come around here. This edge here is spot on as well, and it comes to about where the curve starts there, but on the other side it's down good near enough half an inch, and it's back from there, well, quarter of an inch. So I'll show you why, or I think I know why. Right, I've got you about looking down the centre line. See, this is further over here than it is over there. It's twisted from sort of this corner to that corner. Wants to go over, and that would bring it up, I think. In shipping terms, this is what is known as racking, when it twists from sort of port forward to starboard aft. I've actually got to really think about this to see how I'm going to shift it. It seems to fit on the book fine, so maybe I wasn't as accurate making the book as I thought I was. So let me give this a bit of thought, and then we'll see how we can get it to shift without making the back not fit. So I'll put the big piece of pipe in the vise. What we're going to do is we're going to push this side down. So that in effect will raise this edge, push that edge down. So, see, I don't want to affect the back part if at all possible. So now if you look at that, you can see the two sides to the halfway mark, the curves are different. So that must be where our problem is. This side curves really much. This side only curves to there and then it goes straight. So what I've got to do is put a bit more curve here, bring this back in. So that wants to be curving. Wants to be curving right down to there. That's getting closer to it. But as I curve it, of course, it's bringing this in. So what I've got to do now is bring that back out without opening this curve up. And keep it straight. Okay, let's go and try that. Right, well, I think I've found the answer. It's got nothing to do with the top skin. I don't know if you can see these here, but if I put that on there, that's about still at the right angle. I can't actually get up close because of the curve, but you see the gap's similar. But if I come round to this side, we're already touching at the top and we're not at the bottom, so that wants to come. That wants to go down. So that's what's causing that. Could you see that? I'm going to have a look and maybe re-film or re-video this. Hang on. There. You can just about see there's a gap at the bottom here, it's touching the top, whereas here the gap's about equal all the way up. So I've got to bend that in a little to bring that round. So let me try that. Well, a bit more fiddling and I've sort of got it equal at the front, but when you look at it you notice that I haven't made the pan right, because the whole tank moves from, if you look at the sidelines, the tank goes over to the right. It's not a lot, it's probably not something you'll notice much, hopefully, but I think remedying that, no, that's good enough. Some of you may not be happy with that attitude, but to be honest, there's so much work going into this. I still have to do these front pieces, which the more I look at them, the more difficult they look to be. But I think it's going to be fine. So what I've done is, you might just be able to see the blue up here. I measured from actually the top of the suspension units on both sides and marked it, and then I put a piece of blue edging tape on so I can cut that square. Now when it's square, I think we're going to rather than make that on the buck, because I'm not sure how it's going to sit on the buck, I'm might end up making these here to fit. And I think it's going to be 3 pieces. Hang on, let me move you round. Right, I've got this piece of wood in there to give me the height here. And don't forget as well, when we make this, we've got to put a filler cap on here, right up here, so it fills it up. Actually, looking inside, there's quite a lot of capacity. Anyway, there we are. I'll cut that. The other side, it's almost dead on the edge. And as I say, what I did was I measured from there to there on each side and then marked that. Alright, so we're going to cut this off. Then, as I say, it's got a curve round here. Curve round. So I think I'm going to make it in 3 pieces rather than 2. Make a curved piece for the top. So that'll actually be a dish, because it's not only got a curve round to the front, it's got a curve down. So we'll make a little, again, a section of a bowl, if you like. Fit that to give us a straight edge. And then I'm thinking what I might have to do at the bottom, we'll see when I make the cardboard template, is actually like a dressmaker's dart. Cut a little triangle out, bring it in, then we'll weld that up before we actually fit it, weld it, sand it and everything, so you don't see that it's welded. But I'm not sure how I'm going to make that. It's going to be easier if I'm only coming from here, because a lot of that is straight. But it's still, again, it's a compound curve for this piece, it's a compound curve for that piece. So I think what I'll do here is I'm going to mark this piece of wood the way I want it, cut it, put it back on, and then I'll be able to keep fitting it. Alright, so let me go and tin snip this piece off. Right, I've been sitting looking at this for ages. I think I'm going to do the top piece first. I've cut that at an angle, well, in a curve I should say, that's where I want to go. And also I've marked where the forks come back to. So when we curve this in, it's going to have to go in, and then the last bit will basically have to be flat, which will be nice because it'll give me the double edge to do there. So what I've done, let me put this back round there, roll that to hold it in place, go, is I've cut a piece of card. Which way I do this? Just put it on that way up. Put it on that way up. Yeah. There's a piece of card that follows that. Right. So what we're going to do here is very similar to the other end. We're going to make, as I say, like a bowl and then cut a piece out of it. So I'm not sure where I'll be bringing it round to. See, as you can see, you can't just follow that, so that's got to be curved in. Actually, that's not too difficult to do, is it? Actually, this might not hold on. Anyway, I'll cut a piece a little bit wider than this, I think, to make sure it reaches the end. We'll put a bend in it, and then we'll start beating the living daylights out of this front piece to get it in to match that. Alright? Right, I've cut a piece, I'm going to anneal it, which you've seen before, but look, I've got my rosebud thing. That's better. Right, I'll do this and then we'll come back. So I've annealed this piece, and basically the first thing we've got to do, I've marked a centre line, is form it to that shape there. because that's what the top is like. My goodness, this bends really easily when it's been annealed. A little bit there. That's very close, so let's take it over, try it on the bike. I've cut a little bit out the front, and this is pretty close because I've got to start knocking that down. So let's go and see if we can form this down to meet that. Now, this isn't going to be easy because I've not only got to fold this down, but we've got other ways for it to go as well. So actually, I think I'm going to have to do this. We're going to have to try and do this on the bag. Now I see why people say, the people that do this, that you have to have shrinking stumps with different sized holes in. Well, it's starting to come in. I might have to form this over something. I might even have to cut that out. Because as you can see, really all it's done is made that go in. I might have to rethink this, hang on. Well, I stopped and had a think, and it suddenly struck me that this ball actually was about the shape I wanted it to be. So I've started pounding it in there, and it's coming round as it should do. So let me keep beating it into the shape of this ball. You can see it's coming round. I've just got to keep redoing this because it closes that up. But let me batter on and I'll bring you back. Alright, whose stupid idea was it to build an alloy tank? I've spent forever getting this to that, and I'm going to just very slightly reshape the top here, and there's a little piece to go in, but when that's planished that'll be nice. And oh, hang on. As my policy is to not waste time making things I can buy, I bought that, but I don't know if it's as big as the one on my Scorper, but I still might end up making one. It's really nicely made. Threaded. Nice, no, really nicely made. And you put that in there and that screws into it. But I don't know, as I say, it's slightly bigger than the one on the Scorper. Oh, put that up there somewhere like that. Anyway, I've about got all that right, but of course now I have to make that go in. I'm half thinking, cut it off there, and this piece when it comes up will fill that in, because let me lift this up so the forks will move. God, that's so close. All I got to do is bend that in a little bit, I think, and then that'll be fine. But you know, that sort of famous last words, just bend that in a little bit. Oops, I'm winding that the wrong way around. Put the forks down. There. But anyway, I'm quite pleased with that. I think I'll planish it out and spot weld that. Might even weld it in completely. Make my little piece to go in there so that all of that is nice and rigid, and then we'll put it back on and try doing these two pieces. And of course these two pieces have got to be more or less identical. You can't see both sides of the tank at once, but that doesn't look too bad. Let me pull you back a bit. That's about the shape I wanted. Alright, that's another entire day done, and all I did was that. How about that? So, see you tomorrow. Right, well, hope these videos aren't too boring, but God, I've spent all morning more or less sitting and look at this. I've worked this some more, and if you remember, it sort of came up to a bit of a hump and went down. So I've worked that out, and also I'd found that it sort of bulged here. Looked a little bit like Princess Leia's earmuffs. So now it's smoothed into the shape of that. It fits round here. There's a little bit of a gap there, but I can deal with that when I come to weld it up. But the forks, no matter how I try to bend that in, once I start doing that, other bits bulge and it's terrible. Now what I could do is make a little wooden form with a depression in it and beat that in. But I think what I'm going to do is cut that out. That metal not being there will allow me to shape this more coming in, and then I'll make a piece. So we're going to end up with 5 pieces here. I'm going to make a piece that is sort of flat there and just curves up, almost like it's half a tube, and I'll try and smooth it into that. Then I think that also would make this easier. Once that's curved in, I'll follow this a little bit more, and that might be a lot easier to do. So this extra bit of work might make that a lot easier. So I think what I'm going to do now is cut these out, work on those to get them where I think they should be, and then if they look good, I'm going to tack this on here, and then that'll hold it more for when I'm forming the other pieces. Alright. Right, I think I'm getting the better of this. We're about right that way. Cut these pieces out and I've worked it so now it sweeps in. When you're looking at it from the other end, looking at it from this end that way, this now sweeps in nicely. Next thing is, where's that go? This piece here. See that? Follow that round, and then there's just the tiniest little bit. I'll draw a line off across there, cut that. Then there's a slightest bit of curve in that corner. There. To get that to go like that, see? Just it just starts to curve here. That curve around there will be easy to do. Then we'll cut that. Actually, might cut it further back, we'll see. So I've got a nice straight line. Then all I've got to do is make a piece that goes like that. Curves in and goes to the edge. We'll just shape this a little bit there. So the secret, if you're not a really good, if you haven't yet got the hang of the panel beating stuff, is to do it in pieces. I've got that to fit nicely around there, so when I cut that, that gap I was worried about won't be there. Nice swoop. Probably put that up there. I think we'll use the small one. I think a big one would look a bit strange, although I don't know. I'm still thinking about that. Because with this being so high, you really slosh petrol in, and I think it would just slosh back out. We'll have to see. Anyway, let me go and cut that piece and anneal it, and then we'll see about forming it up. And what I'm going to do is, I haven't done the other side yet. When I'm happy that this is really going to work, I'll do the other side of this. I'll make a little template of that curve so I get it the same. Then when I'm happy with this piece, I'm going to weld it on. Then we'll weld those on, and then we've got it nicely sitting on both ends. Put them in, and we'll turn it over, do all the welding inside, and then we'll do our final planishing. This has come out quite well actually. Do our final planishing, and then when it's near enough smooth, so to get it perfectly smooth and shiny, we only have to take a couple of thou off. We'll give it a sand with some 800, something like that, 1000, and then polish it. Well, I'll probably polish it after I've fastened it to the base, because it'll just be easier to hold. Right, there's that piece done. So it curves around the bottom here, it curves around with that. Some very fine, a little tap in. But this was a bugger, because there's a little bit of a curve at the top. This curve, of course, is different to that curve, so you've got it's got a little twist in it. But then it's also curving that way. Actually, the real bugger is going to be making an identical one for the other side. So anyway, that's flush at the bottom. That fits there. Let's see, it's all just... What I'll do is put some clamps on, tack it where it's absolutely flush, and then I can work my way around tapping it until it's right and weld it up flush. So there's that. Now all I need to make, as I say, is a piece to go in there. A sort of piece like that. And that, hang on, let's bring that forks up. It's funny, isn't it? You know, now I've got it done, there's a huge gap there. But I don't think I could have done that, those shapes. That would have just given me so many more curves in this thing. I'm not up to that. Alright, here's another tip for you. Do this, the actual shaping, near the tank. Because I'm walking 30 feet over there, backwards, forwards, tip, tap, backwards. So, we'll see. When we've got this all tacked together, I'll start to get it to shape. But guess what? That's another day gone. What have you seen me do today? A little bit up here and make that. So, see you tomorrow. Alright, we're getting near the end of the week, and actually I noticed we're up to about 50 minutes of video. So, got this piece done, and actually I found as I was doing it that I could change the shape slightly. You see, remember I thought I was going to have to put a tuck or something in here? Pull this round, put a little lip on it. So that's touching all the way around there now. And it's actually come so that I can just put another piece in to there. So I'm not doing this reverse curve or anything. I'm going to just smooth it over to there. So what we need is a piece like that. A lot of it is just a little curve. Take it into there. This is the difficult bit. But I think that one good belt with one of those rounded hammers will start that going, and then I can just, on the various shaped dollies, form that round. So let me go and cut and anneal a piece of this, and then we'll see what happens. Well, there's another day gone by, but we did get a fair amount done. Sorry, I got so carried away, I forgot to show you this little piece that I cut here. I'll show you it when I do the other side. And this was really awkward to sort of clamp. Alloy is really difficult to sort of tack weld. I know people do it, but I can never do it. It always goes into a hole. Stainless, ordinary steel, everything I can tack weld things, but alloy I've got to be able to get at them. So anyway, holding this one was a little bit difficult because it had a couple of curves to it. So it's actually touching here. It's moved away a little bit, so I've got to do a little bit of dollying to bring it round. But that's fine. There's space there, there's plenty of metal. I'll curve it into there and it'll look grand. So that's not bad. It'll drop down a bit at the front as well when I take some of that off. That is very nice. Alright, so we'll see what else. I'll probably be able to show you me finishing this side off and getting it looking nice and fitting properly. But that's it. It's Thursday evening now, so I might get it on Saturday, I might not. Anyway, whether I do or not, I'll see you a little bit later. Right, well, it's Saturday, so let's see what we can squeeze in. Right, first thing, suddenly struck me that because I wasn't using the actual buck part of this to do this front bit, I could take the ribs off and then the base would go on, and that allowed me to bring it over here where I'm actually doing the work, so I am not running backwards and forwards across the workshop. So I've been working on this edge here, slowly getting it round. As I say, we're going to have to cut a little piece off, but that's fine. It actually touches right at the top. There's going to be a little piece snipped off there. So that's good. It's fitting really closely everywhere. A little bit more planishing to do. But even just getting this sorted, there's a slight gap, so that's got to be brought in. You see the little marks? That's where I'm saying, all right, you know, this from here to here, turn it just the edge, and from here to here, this bigger arrow, I had to bring it in to start to move it into that closer proximity there. So I'll do a little bit more on that so that it's actually touching, although it doesn't exactly have to be, because that'll give me really good penetration with the weld. And I'm thinking what I'll do at the front is when I've welded it up, particularly up around here where I don't have two edges, in truth, I might build up a little bit of weld there and smooth it out. But anyway, this front section here is almost done, so let me get that perfect, which I won't show you. Oh, and my blooming sander thing, the finger file or whatever they call it, it's like a big belt sander. The top here is adjustable, and if you don't have it adjusted right when you start it up, it either comes off this side or it comes off that side. Well, it did go funny on me a while ago, and I put a little spot weld on and that held it because the little screw disappeared, and it's a tiny screw. But anyway, there was another point here. I just put a 6x32 in, but it's one of those things, you make the slightest adjustment and it goes off that side. Adjust it slightly the other way and it goes off this side, so bugger it. Alright, I'm waffling and we're already 50 minutes into the video. So what I'm going to do is, as I say, get that exactly right. I'm not going to show you any of this because it's just tapping and backwards and forwards. Then I'll show you the other side. So I've got this piece in. The welding was fine right, I got to the end, look, and then I burnt out, but that will all get fixed. So here is the next piece. It always looks strange, that's virtually straight, but in order to do it you've got to make it curved because it's going to go round like that. Now you remember I said with the other one I'd start by giving it a belt here with the round hammer. I did that and it was not the right thing to do. It formed the shape completely incorrectly. So there's actually only a couple of curves to go into this. It's got a curve that way and then it's got a curve this way. So I'm cutting these really big and then working them in. So let me form this, I'll show you that, and then actually I'm not even going to be able to get to weld it today. We'll be done for the week. Alright, so we're slowly shaping this one to go in there. See, we're getting it to the top, so I'm going to take some off this side. That bottom needs just got that line to go there. There's roughly the line we're following, like that. So I'm going to take some more off here and down there and get that to fit in, and the curve's just about coming right. It's like a teaspoon, like a spoon. So that's coming along like that. But it's defeated me this week again. I really can't stay out here any longer. So I guess Monday we'll probably finish this off. So until I see you then, you stay safe and enjoy yourselves.